The more I thought about it, the more I got to the belief that ovarian aging is at least partially reversible, and that's how I slowly got to the concept of Rejuvenate Bio.
That was Iris Lam, founder and CEO of Rejuvenate Bio, a company on a bold mission to turn back the clock on egg aging and redefine what's possible for women's reproductive health. Rejuvenate Bio is advancing a groundbreaking epigenetic reprogramming platform designed to create a younger, healthier follicular environment for eggs in the IVF setting, giving women in their 30s and 40s a real shot at successful conception when they need it most. And that's just the beginning. Welcome to the Biotech Stack, where we go behind the science to meet the founders and leaders building the tools, platforms, and technologies that make discovery possible. From lab automation and AI-driven research to genomics, diagnostics, and clinical technologies, we cover the full stack, from the R&D bench all the way through the clinical lab. I'm Corinne Regan, your host, and in today's episode, I'm joined by Iris Lam, founder and CEO of Rejoovenate Bio. A cell and molecular biologist by training, she earned her bachelor's in biochemistry in Hong Kong, her master's in infectious biology across Switzerland and Singapore, and her PhD in immunology in Germany. She spent her 20s and early 30s traveling the world and building her scientific research career. But when she began thinking seriously about family and fertility, she had a striking realization. The biological clock had been quietly shaping women's life decisions long before they ever think about having children. That's what turned her scientific lens towards reproductive aging and sparked a mission to lift the limits on reproductive age, so that possibility, not biology, defines the timeline. Let's get started. Iris, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you could take us through your journey, who you are, a little bit about your background, and what led you to start Rejuvenate Bio.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Corinne. I'm Iris, cell and molecular biologist by training. Born and raised in Hong Kong, went to college in Hong Kong, did my bachelor's in biochemistry. And then I went to Switzerland and Singapore to do my master's in infectious biology. And after that, I was pretty sure that that's what I really wanted to do at the time. So I went to Germany to go to grad school, did my PhD in immunology. And that being said, I spent my 20s and my early 30s just traveling across countries, building my career, getting all these super awesome research opportunities. But at some point, when I started thinking more seriously about having a family, about fertility and reproductive aging, I just realized how much the biological clock has been just, like quietly shaping women's life decisions long before they even think about having children. It affects how we make decisions around our career, whether we want to go to grad school, whether we want to, move to another country, to the other part of the country to take a new job, or whether we want to stay in a particular relationship. It has a lot to do with how women take risks or pursue opportunities in their lives. And I realized also that there's still a major mismatch between the modern society and female biology, because men don't have that, right? Like men don't have
Right.
this biological clock to hold them back when they have to make these kind of life decisions.
Right.
So as a scientist, I started to think a lot about how this whole ovarian aging works, how this whole egg aging process works. And that got me into this whole world of reproductive aging, ovarian aging. And the more I thought about it, the more I got to the belief that ovarian aging is at least partially reversible. And that's how I slowly got to the concept of Rejuvenate Bio.
So with that said, you alluded to it a little bit, but could you describe what Rejuvenate Bio is? What's the problem you're trying to solve? And then how are you trying to actually solve that problem?
Yeah. So basically, what we're trying to do is pretty simple. We want to rejuvenate these cells in the ovaries. We see ourselves as a female longevity company. Our long term vision is to essentially rejuvenate the cells in the ovaries to increase the lifespan or health span for women. Our first product in our pipeline is essentially an IVF product. We're trying to develop our technology into a lab procedure for rejuvenating eggs in the IVF setting. The goal is to improve egg quality for older women, women in their late 30s, in the 40s, trying to have kids in the IVF setting.
And can you give a little more detail to how that process works? or is it proprietary at this stage?
Sure, we can talk about the science behind what we're trying to do. So, we know that if we have a younger and healthier follicular environment for the egg, we can have a younger and healthier egg. So, some studies have actually shown that if you have a younger and healthier follicular environment for the egg to mature in, so that was done in mice, you can have a 3 times increase in live birth, which is absolutely massive. So, basically, we're
Okay.
building on that concept to try to come up with a lab procedure to rejuvenate these cells surrounding the egg. The idea is pretty simple to recreate a younger and healthier follicular environment for the egg. So, as you can imagine, it's a lab procedure that we're developing. We're going to offer this procedure to the fertility clinics and embryologists to use directly on the eggs and these cells when they're in a dish after an egg retrieval procedure. As a product, we will get to the market as a medical device. Because, fun fact, many of these IVF media or additives to the media are actually medical devices. So that's going to
Oh,
be,
okay.
the route for us to follow. Mhm.
Is this like a stem cell procedure where you're introducing new, fresh cells that will then turn into healthier follicular cells? Or is this some type of proprietary media that you're introducing to the already existing environment that then just allows these existing follicular cells that the patient has get healthier?
So we're actually doing an epigenetic reset of these cells in the follicles. So in simple terms, we're trying to reset all these cellular pathways in the cells to make them younger. There are many companies, especially here in the Bay Area, trying to pursue the same technology to rejuvenate other organs, other cells, partial reprogramming, epigenetic reset. But it is a bit surprising to me that I just haven't talked to many people who are interested in applying this technology, developing this technology into something for rejuvenating the ovaries. We know that the ovaries is basically is not just a reproductive organ; it controls many other organs in the body. We know that on the skin and in basically like almost every other tissues, we have receptors for estrogen, which is produced by ovarian cells. And what happens for women hitting menopause or after menopause when the ovaries, when the cells in the ovaries fail to produce these hormones, like estrogen being the major one,
Right.
we start to see pretty rapid decline in the functions of all these other organs, in all these other systems. We start to see a rapid decrease in bone mass, bone density, cognitive functions, in cardiovascular functions, and all of that is tied to your ovaries. So, to be honest,
Right.
it's a big mystery to me why there's not a lot of people working on this or even funding this.
Well, we are in women's health, so maybe there's something to that. So I'm glad that you are the one that's focused on it. I'm glad that you mentioned the medical device component too, because based on the way you described it,
Mhm.
metabolically, even, it seems like it'd be something very close to the cell and gene therapy space. But because you're dealing, you said, with things that are coming outside of the body and maybe there's media involved, that this is actually deemed a medical device. When I think of what you're talking about, it does, with this, the rise of cell and gene therapy and all these therapeutics, um, the differentiation is not common. I wouldn't have thought it as a layperson, knowing that there would be a difference between the two.
Me neither, because my background is like on basic research. So I actually have no experience in developing therapeutics or medical devices. So I actually worked very closely with a few regulatory consultants, experts to carve out this regulatory strategy for us to enter the market for this particular product. Because what we're building is essentially a lab procedure, right? It works in a
Oh,
dish.
I
So
see.
it's
Okay.
all ex vivo. None of these compounds or like solutions are going back inside the patient's body. And also, we're basically targeting the cells outside the egg. And after the procedure, the egg is the only cell that would proceed to fertilization, meaning the risk profile for us is actually pretty low.
So you've alluded to this a little bit. You've talked about clinics, you've talked about the IVF setting, you've talked about women of a certain age, but who is the ideal customer for this?
Yeah. So for this particular product, it would be for women who have failed a few rounds of IVF. Now the problem is that if you're, say, for example, a 38-year-old woman, if you failed 2 or 3 rounds of IVF, the only option for you is basically to get donor eggs. There's no medical treatment for you to improve the quality of your eggs before you go on to try the next cycle. Obviously, you can try your fourth, fifth, sixth cycle. The problem is that when I talk to these fertility clinics, especially those in the US, they're obliged to publish the success rates. So many of them actually do not want to keep trying more cycles. They don't want to try like 20 cycles for these older patients because then they risk having a low success rate, which is not ideal for them in terms of their market positioning and all of that. For these clinics, they're actually pushing away revenues, right? Many of these patients, they can actually afford to go through more cycles. Many of them who I've talked to, who I've interacted with, they're actually quite desperate and they would pay whatever they have to get a healthy baby. It's just that there is no solution for them to improve the egg quality to increase the odds of having a successful cycle.
So, taking a step further, I know you're kind of early in the process of this company, but when you're looking towards the commercialization, the sales, marketing, partnerships, what would be the initial strategy to get this innovation into the marketplace?
Yeah, definitely like partnerships. That's so important because a lot of the, at least in the US, a lot of these fertility clinics are in a fertility network. So our strategy is essentially to work with some of these fertility clinic networks, and we already have some early partnerships set up.
Oh,
So
great.
that would be how we're gonna go to market.
Partnerships just for them to help you like through the clinical trials or for them to use this as an offering to those who maybe are on their second or third round of IVF to see where this might play out in the market?
Definitely both clinical trials and pilots.
So, as you're a growing company and you're looking to develop these types of partnerships, the conference circuit can be a big part of this industry. Are there places that people could find Rejuvenate Bio into 2026?
Yes. So definitely ASRM is the big one. I also have to say that ASRM, it's the conference that really gave me the confidence to start this company. I went there last year, connected with a lot of clinicians and scientists working in this space, and basically validated the need for this product and the science that I had been thinking about. So like I'm
Okay.
definitely going back this year.
Okay, great. What does a conference space look like for you? Do you have like data that you present when you're at the conference? Do you have a poster that you present at these conferences? How are people learning about what the company does?
Yeah, for now we're still like pretty much in stealth in terms of the
Okay,
R&D. So yeah,
gotcha.
we don't plan on doing a poster or a talk this year, but probably next year.
And then looking ahead, what does the future of the company look like? That could be into 2026. That could be the next 5 to 10 years.
Mhm. So and the short-term goal for us is really to work with our partner clinics to get that clinical proof of concept out because that's really the most urgent thing that we're going to do. And once we're there, keep optimizing the product and then go through all the necessary FDA testing to get cleared to enter the market. But the longer vision, as I said, something that I'm even more excited about is to bring this technology from the dish back into the body to develop this technology into a therapeutic for rejuvenating the ovaries. The big vision for us as a company is to rejuvenate the ovaries in the body to delay the onset of menopause and to add at least 10 years of health span to women.
As a mom who became a mom much later than probably the average person, I think this is an incredible technology. And I think that it's such a great option for those who only have really one at the moment. So we're really excited to see where this ends up and when you guys are finally getting from the dish back into the patient.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Again, like that's actually something that I'm even more excited about.
That's great. Well, we look forward to hearing more about you, especially into 2026. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Corinne.
We'd like to thank our guest, Iris Lam, founder and CEO of Rejoovenate Bio, for joining us on the Biotech Stack. For more information on Iris or Rejoovenate Bio, please check the links in our show notes below. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.